hang on. I need some more water if I'm going to...
All right, okay. Well, look, I'll introduce us then while you get the water. Welcome back. Another episode of the There Will Be Bond podcast, episode 88. Well, this could actually be 88.5 because we just recorded about 20 minutes. That didn't quite record. Didn't press the right buttons. So, sorry, Rob. That one's on me. Anyway.
It's okay.
Anyway, well, we'll do it all again. We like talking. We like the sound of our own voices and our own stories.
We just love doing this.
Yeah, we'll just have to laugh at our own jokes all over again.
The stifling heat.
Oh, God. All right. Okay, so covering minutes 113 and 114 of Casino Royale this week. We also speak to Sean Parkin. He is the director of John Barry from York with Love. That's playing down at the Bedford Club in Clapham. Next week, there will be tickets. Balham, is it? What did I say? Well, it's Balham. Yeah, Balham's in Clapham.
No, it's not.
No?
No.
I thought it was.
Clapham is Clapham, Balham is Balham.
All right, it's in Balham then. Let's call the whole thing off. Yeah. Let's crack on, Rob. Oh, let's do anything Bondian. You been up to anything Bondian this week?
I have.
All
So
right,
I saw A View to a Kill in 4K on my new telly. I've got a new Samsung 55-inch 4K OLED. I've upgraded from my 48-inch 4K OLED made by LG. So if anyone's interested, I'm selling that. Just send me a DM, and I will tell you how much it is. So yeah,
why don't you just tell us how much it is now?
Well, I'm still deciding how much I'm going to sell it for. I'm not going to.
Come on, Rob. Jeez, give someone a chance.
I paid £1,000 for it 2 years ago, so I'm looking around the 350 to 400 figure.
All right. Okay. You'll never get that. But okay.
And we might know. Well, have a look on eBay. They go for more than that. But yeah, so that was an incredible experience, actually. And even though that film's quite low down my ranking, it was still a hugely enjoyable experience seeing it in 4K on a new 55-inch OLED telly.
Nice.
And it looked amazing. And surround sound and everything. Yeah.
Did you treat yourself like a bottle of wine?
Yeah, I had a nice bottle of red.
Did you have a quiche?
I had a French red, actually,
very good.
which went nicely with the scenes in France. And it was great to see it again so soon after we went to Amberley. So that's still fresh in our minds to then see it and like, oh, look, that's where we were, and that's where we were, and that's where we stood. And especially the little train thing that he drives as well. Seeing that and hearing it. And seeing
because you got to drive that train.
I drove it, and that it's not an easy thing to drive. I can tell you. I mean, obviously I was supervised, but it's still quite difficult.
I do regret because I was in the queue for that, and then I left the queue.
Yeah, no, you should have done that.
Should have done
because they don't let you do that ever. That was a one-off.
But that's like Blatchford said. That's a proper Bond car. How often are you going to get to drive a Bond vehicle?
Oh my God, it is.
Yeah,
I never even thought of it.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Oh my God. No, it was very cool. So seeing them drive that and hearing it was fantastic. It really was. That was a really wonderful Bondian experience I had at the weekend. So yeah, what about you? Have you done anything Bondian this week?
Well, I'll tell you what. I did just reel off about 10 minutes of me going to this hotel that had something to do with MI6. But let me give you another one that I've been thinking about. So you know how I've been thinking cold showers. Bond loves his cold showers when he's in Jamaica in the book. You know,
I gets out of a cold shower now.
Oh God, we are absolutely roasting in here. So we're in.
Actually, got a shower in there. Maybe I'll go in there and have a cold shower.
Shall we set the microphones up?
Should we just go in the shower? Will we create the shower scene from Casino Royale? We're just sitting there.
Oh God. All right, but who's kissing whose fingers?
I think that's what we.
Wait.
I'd be well up for that now. I'm roasting.
Even the casino one, it'll be better than the Skyfall one. We did the Skyfall shower scene, you and I. Oh, that is horrific.
Anyway.
I'm not going to think about that.
Yeah,
all right.
No.
So I've been
thinking about cold showers.
Yeah,
have you been having cold showers?
I have, and then I fell out of love with it. You know,
I thought you were going to say you fell out of the shower.
No, shut up. I lost my mojo when it came to cold showers. I just couldn't get back into the game. And so I managed to muscle through it the other day. I just thought, right, I'll go back. I'll just do 5 seconds at a time, 10 seconds at a time. And I built myself up to the minute. I do a minute of cold showers, and it's freezing cold shower.
Sounds horrific.
Yeah, but it's easier to do when it's hot like this. But I've also figured out a technique that gets me through it relatively easily. I shadow box now. I shadow box in the shower under cold water. And it's piece. Piece of piss to do. But it came in handy because I went to this Russian spa with Anastasia. We're now a member of this Russian spa in Chiswick, Banya, which is opposite Turnham Green. And they have this cold plunge, right? So you have like this. People will know what a cold plunge is. Go into the sauna, quickly under the shower, which is a cold shower. It's like a bucket. You pull a chain and dunked cold water, and then you go into the cold plunge. Yeah, the plunge. And literally, I've done it before, and all I could last was one plunge, get in and out. Like you can't stay in there. This time I get in there, I put my head underwater. I was there for 40 seconds, which is pretty good, and it's freezing cold, and I just imagine myself, look. This is what the people on the Titanic was going through, right?
Is this because your body is now gradually acclimatized and accustomed to this kind of treatment?
And I've just become like a lot harder. I've got my edge back.
Well, this is what I mean.
Yeah, I've got my grip back.
Your body's accustomed. Yeah. This is what it does, doesn't it? And eventually, these cold showers and plunges aren't as painful as they are when you initially do it.
But I strongly believe that you need to have a certain level of discomfort in your life, because it trains you for other things. Don't smirk at that, Rob, when you've got your feet up with your bottle of red, watching A View to a Kill on your big telly. No discomfort there, but you've got to have some level of discomfort because it does you well.
I have that on my commute into the office, thank you very much. That's enough discomfort for me.
That does sound horrific, I'll give you that.
It is.
Anyway, so I've been getting into my cold exposure again, and I've got my game back, man. Got my mojo back.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So
hang on, why is that Bondian?
Because he does cold showers.
Oh, right.
In the books, anyway.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Like I said.
Very good.
At the start. Yeah. Okay. All right, Rob. Thank fuck for that. Let's get into... I hope that recorded. I'm not doing that again.
No.
Thinking about you in the shower.
I do think we should do the Casino Royale shower scene now. I think that would be good. Yeah.
What about the A View to a Kill shower scene?
That is not the soap.
Ooh, Rob. All right. Ooh. All right. Let's do it, shall we?
I knew it was too early to promote you.
Well, I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy. So your mistake will be short-lived.
Okay, Rob, where did we get to? Oh, I need to get the blood
He's
out.
being tortured, isn't he?
Still.
He's still being... We're on the third week of this torture
tortured.
now.
And we know now that this minute is sponsored by Wilde&Harte, Rob. Yes, my favourite razor brand. What has that got to do with Bond, Peter, here? They're not a Bond brand. Well, you. It's a British razor brand. And we're proud of our British brands, aren't we, Rob? Yes. Yeah, perfect. It would be perfectly fitting for Bond to have something
drive
like
British
this.
motor cars.
How about that? Mm-hmm. Very good. Oh,
always buy British.
So WH20 is the code. Get 20% off, and we'll leave links in the show notes. Right, let's crack on. Here we go. Minute 113.
Now the whole world's gonna know that you don't scratch my balls. Oh, I died. Yes. Because no matter what you do, I'm not going to give you the password, which means your clients are going to hunt you down and cut you into little pieces of meat while you're still breathing. Because if you kill me, there'll be nowhere else to hide. But you are so wrong! Because even after I slaughtered you and your little girlfriend, your people would still welcome me with open arms. Because they need what I know. The big picture. Give me the password, and I would at least let her live.
Oh, Rob, he gives him right. God, he gives him one right around the kisser, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. Doesn't he?
That's definitely a different starting point to my Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, we've been through this.
I think I've got extra bits.
You must have extra bits going
Yeah.
on. Yeah. Well, you need to figure it out. I mean,
But that
we
means
can't
other-
get. Look, we
that
can't,
means people at home have got extra bits if they've
Rob.
got the Blu-ray that I've got.
Rob, we can't get any more granular than this. I'm playing the fucking thing minute by minute. You should be telling me what is in it, like what is extra. Jesus H. Christ! All right, so take me through this minute, Rob. Your takeaways.
I want to know what they're doing to her. What do you think they're doing to her?
Do you think she's faking the sounds?
I think she might be.
She has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? But it sounds pretty genuine, though. I wonder what they're doing to her.
Do you think they're actually Eva Green screams as well?
I think they are.
Or do you think they might be library?
I think they're Eva Green screens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they would have recorded her doing that. I don't think that would have been another actress.
See, I think her screams sound the same. It sounds the same when she gets muscled into the car. Like a...
Oh, do you think they've just used the same scream?
I think it sounds really, really similar.
Oh, my God. We're going to have to go back and compare.
I've always thought this. The scream that she makes getting into the car when they kidnap her, and the scream that she makes when she gets shoved into the other room as Bond gets tortured. For the first time, she gets shoved, and then the door closes, and you can hear
the same scream.
Yeah. But I think it's just the same scream, but with a different effect on it, because obviously you have to put like a different reverb on.
They put an echo on it because they're in that barge.
They're in
thing.
different environments, so yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be if I ever had to sit down with Eva Green, if I was trapped in a lift, I'd be like, love, tell me about them screams.
Give us a scream.
Yeah.
Give us a scream, and we know if it's you or not. But yeah, I because it sounds pretty horrific. Her scream, like really, really bad.
Do you think
which is obviously what they want because my God, his face.
Yeah.
He really does care. You know.
So I noticed something in this minute that I don't think I've noticed in the past. And I actually had to get the subtitles on to hear him because it's kind of inaudible. When Le Chiffre convinces him, look, you know, even if I slaughter you and your little girlfriend, you know, they'll welcome me back. And Bond has this like realization on his face. He's like, oh, fuck, he's right, yeah. And he goes, the big picture. Do you hear what he said?
The big picture?
The big picture. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I put it, that's what he says. He goes,
does he?
Yeah, he says it like under his breath. He goes, the big picture.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
I'm wondering, was that a callback to anything? Like, did M say something about the big picture?
I think she did.
You're not seeing the big picture? I'm just trying to think.
I think she did.
But it seems like a strange thing to him to say.
I think that's a callback to earlier in the film.
We'll have to go watch all the minutes all over again.
When she's briefing him.
Yeah.
Don't they talk about the big picture then?
Oh, God, we'll have to watch the damn film again.
Do you know what? I think they do.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll figure it out. But
we need to check on that.
But that's what it felt like to me. That he had a realization of now he's in it for the...
I've never heard that line in that scene. I've never heard him say that.
Yeah, same. And I had to put the subtitles on to make sure I heard what you were seeing.
Well, I put the subtitles on as well, but only because when he says... everyone's going to know that you died scratching my balls, because the way he says died doesn't even sound like died. It sounds like a different word. Really? And I wanted to just check that he does say died, and he does. It's like everyone's going to know you died.
Hold on, I'll play it back on.
And it's only because Le Chiffre says I died.
Okay, hold on.
That I've always thought it must be died.
Let's see.
Now the whole world's gonna know that you died scratching my
Yeah, he hurries.
It's like you've done.
No,
it's
he hurries the word died.
But it doesn't even sound like it. Sounds like done. Everyone's going to know you done scratch my balls. That's what it sounds like. It doesn't even sound like died.
Is this... How many times do you actually see Bond laugh in the whole series? Right? I'm trying to think of... Like, this is easily the most...
I think Roger laughs quite a lot.
But not...
And Pierce laughs quite a bit.
No, I think Pierce laughs on the inside.
Oh, hello, it's a pussycat come to join us.
That's Mishka, yeah.
Daniel hardly ever laughs. He's just a miserable fucker.
He is.
Tim doesn't often laugh.
Sean never laughs?
He does.
When did Sean laugh?
When does Sean laugh? Good question.
I think he laughs at his own jokes a little, like, your technique too violent.
Yeah.
But that he's not laughing
he
like
smirks
that.
a lot, doesn't he?
But I don't think any of the Bonds laugh. Oh, well, Timothy laughs. You calling me a horse's ass? Fucking stupid line that is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is a really good point, actually. When does Bond laugh? We should put that out to the listeners so they can list it all. You need to put it on Instagram.
Top 10 Bond laughs.
Yeah, when does Bond laugh? There's never any like great guffaw or anything, is there? There's never anything.
Well, he does guffaw at the... You hate it, don't you? At the dinner table earlier, because I thought it was a pretty good line. You He's got a mouthful of caviar. He's like,
That's right. He laughs with his mouth full. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is just rude. Yeah, that's right.
All right, Rob. Well, oh God, Chiffre is really. Oh, he points and he's super sweaty, and so they. Also, when I was recording this earlier, he gives him a slap right at the end.
He
You
does,
just
yeah.
hear the slap.
He
like,
does.
Psh! And as he slapped him, like Roger just bounced into life. Like just
Really?
got up and started barking, and he went nuts. Yeah, so he could. It's a really loud slap.
Well, perhaps he's worried about Daniel.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to know Daniel. He's seen so much of him in the last few months, hasn't he? On the telly every
know.
week.
God. Oh, and also is there? Oh no, I think it's in the next minute. It's the next minute. Well, I'll tell you what, Rob. Anything else?
No.
No. Okay. Well, I'll tell you. How about we get to the interview now?
Oh, yes.
We've sat down and spoke to Sean Parkin, director of John Barry from York. It's playing in Balham, the Bedford Club, on the 25th of June.
I've been to the Bedford Club. They used to do comedy there.
Oh.
And then after the comedy, they push all the chairs away and turn it into a nightclub. It's really cool.
So I bought a ticket and I texted you and I said, do you want to come with me? I'll buy you a ticket. And what
Yeah.
did you say?
I said I can't because I've got to be up at 5:30 the next day for work.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd be there.
Yeah.
I can't physically do it. It's too tiring.
You're doing too much.
I am.
Doing too much. All right. Okay, so anyway, here's Sean. Enjoy this. We'll see you on the other side. Well, on line one, my great pleasure to introduce Sean Parkin. He is the director of John Barry from York with Love. How we're doing today, Sean?
Very well, thank you very much.
Yay.
Good to be
Well,
here.
thank you for. I literally just emailed Sean this morning after I found out about the screening that's happening. And we'll leave all the dates in the show notes for the event. And also with just about an hour to go, I said, look, why don't you jump on and we'll talk about it. But Sean, I'd love for you to introduce how you got into this documentary, but also what people can learn that's going to be new about this documentary about John Barry, please.
Well, I'm originally from York, which was obviously where John Barry grew up. And it wasn't until later life that I realized that a lot of the music that I'd heard when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s that I liked, I hadn't joined the dots. And then I realized that actually it was the same chap who'd written so many of these tunes that I really liked and that really appealed to me. And I'd made some films about York musicians in my own spare time. These are kind of non-commercial ventures. But what I decided to do was with the films is to show them and sell tickets, and the money goes to charity. So that way I kind of get around the kind of copyright issues and so on, because I'm not making any money out of it. And the charity that's going to benefit from this film viewing in Balham is Future Talent. And they support talented young musicians from underprivileged backgrounds, which just felt absolutely perfect.
Interesting.
So I made these films about other York musicians, but I knew that the ultimate film was going to be about John Barry. And it was something that was in the back of my mind to do. And then over the last year or so, I've put it together.
How long did he live in York for? I know, like in his, I think early 40s, he moved to America. But how long was he in York for?
He left. I would imagine that he was in his early 20s when he left. So he did. He grew up in York and went to St. Peter's schools. It's a famous school in York. And then he did his national service after working in the family business as a projectionist. And then he did his national service. He met lots of guys in the army who were great musicians, and they used to play together and were honing their skills and so on. And then when he got back to York, he decided that maybe he needed to be in London and get some more expert tuition. And he never really went back. So he was in London, from his 20s. Then I think he spent some time in Mallorca, and then he was eventually was in New York or New York State for the rest of his life. Eventually,
And is he I know because you said you're from York as well, Sean. Is he quite revered in York? Because forgive me, but it doesn't really sound like he is from Yorkshire. He doesn't have that kind of rich Jeffrey Boycott Yorkshire accent. So,
Well,
how do people view it from a York point of view?
I think he's got a posh Yorkshire accent.
Right.
That,
Okay.
so there are some posh people in Yorkshire, and he went to a good school and everything. So you're encouraged to be to speak well. Um, it's interesting because I think a lot of people in York know about John Barry, but that was actually the main motivation for me to make the film, because I know that there are thousands of John Barry enthusiasts, but in a way, the film that I've made is more for the people of York who possibly don't know as much as they might. And I think a lot of people said to me after we showed it in York a couple of weeks ago, wow, I didn't realize he did that. I didn't realize he did that, and that was the exact response I was hoping for, was because it was a sort of almost an education about this guy that we should all feel really proud of, coming from York. And I don't think a lot of people realize, how many Oscars he'd won and how many James Bond soundtracks he'd written, and they're all wowed about it. So in a way, the film is more for educating people who don't know so much about him. But I've also recognized the fact that, the last documentaries that I've seen about John Barry were quite old. You're talking probably 20 years ago. So it was a chance to make something new and do it slightly differently, even if, hardcore fans will think, well, it's kind of the greatest hits. But there are some elements in it that are kind of scoops, if you like, which I've got from his family. So I won't say what they are. But there's one or two parts of it that might raise a couple of eyebrows. But essentially it's a celebration of the music that he created from when he first started. And the film goes up to about 1973. The last film that's featured in it is Diamonds Are Forever. And I decided that would be part one, and then eventually I'll make part two. But I think there's because there's a very definite division for me. I feel like I really like the music of the 60s because I felt like he was experimenting and trying different things and different instruments and so on, and really creating an incredible genre with the Bond movies. And then I think the second half of his career was much more orchestral, lush sounding soundtracks, absolutely beautiful, but slightly different. And I suppose coming from the kind of rock and roll vibe of the John Barry 7, that, influenced a lot of what his early stuff was about, with, Dr. No and Ipcris File and things like that. And of course, Vic Flick on the guitar, and that twangy guitar sound that he had was taken straight from the band into the soundtracks, because that's what he knew and that's what he was doing. So I found the 60s and 70s absolutely fascinating. And that's why I wanted to make the film about this specific era, because it was when I was growing up. And I remember as a kid, you always thought London and the London life was exotic and exciting. Coming from York, it seemed a million miles away.
Yeah.
And I've never lost that feeling that in the 60s, London was very exciting place to be and the place to be. And part of it was this story that he went from being a lad in York to being very successful in London life and driving his E-type Jag and
hanging out with Michael Caine and
hanging
Doug
out
Hayward and Scots, and
yes, and marrying models and
I
so on.
I was going to ask you about that, because I don't know if people really appreciate that he was not only living in that era, but he embroidered that lifestyle into his own, didn't he? Like, he was the rock and roll guy as well. He was the womanizer, and he was, just a person that would, let's just say, he enjoyed the time that he was living in to the max.
Yeah, and I found that intriguing, that on the face of it, when you see him being interviewed, he sounds like a slightly dour Yorkshireman, and he's quite understated, and he doesn't give a lot away, and so I find that quite intriguing that this lad from York was then driving around in an E-Type Jag and hanging out with,
Yeah.
all the up and coming stars of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely an element of a sort of dark horse there.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, also he must have been unshackled coming out of the army at that time, hitting London and kind of coming into London and not soon after being in London hitting that, peak when he's being asked to do all these scores for film. So it must have been like stardom must have been foisted upon him right at that moment. So it all kind of happened at once, I guess, for him.
well, I think he'd had a bit of a taste of it because his father ran cinemas, but that were also they'd have live music on as well. And in the film, it mentions that he would be there backstage, and when Nat King Cole was there, and Louis Armstrong, and various other artists. I think he was kind of used to being around stardom a little bit. So I suspect that had a bit of influence on his confidence when he went down to London, and not being phased by being around performers and so on.
Right.
So that possibly helped, but he obviously had an enormous inner self-confidence in what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he just went for it. And I find that, I really admire that he did that. He just took his chance.
And you mentioned also that you spoke to the family. How much family is there? Because I know he was married four times. Was it something like that?
Yes.
A bunch of
Yes.
times. So did you find that there was like a huge welter of information and research and people that were willing to talk about him, or because of his private life when he was alive that people were a little bit more reserved about coming forward?
There's definitely a reservation about coming forward, because I think that he valued his privacy, and I think everybody in the family respects that. And so, and I didn't push that. I didn't want to try and get into areas that people felt uncomfortable with. His last wife still lives in New York. I haven't had any personal contact with her, but the family members that I've met recently do, and they've said they'll put a good word in for me if she was worried about it, And I think the main thing is that it's not a commercial venture. I think if I was trying to make money out of it, then that would be a completely different thing.
Right.
Because the thing to point out is that I've made this film in what I call a scrapbook style. So I've taken video footage and so on from wherever I can find it, and then meshed it all together.
Right.
And then some of the interesting, challenging bits are at the beginning of the story where you don't have any footage. So you have to kind of use whatever you can to tell the story. So where he's talking about having piano lessons at 9, I'm finding just library footage of some kid playing at 9 years old, and so it just
sideburns.
Yeah. No, but so you can find, so you have to cobble this stuff together to create the narrative. But of course, then when you get into the films, it's not so difficult, because you can find all that relatively easily. But I haven't got the copyright to do it, so I'm having to do this in a way it's private screenings, no money's made, the ticket sales, all the profit goes to the charity, and so on.
And this money, sorry, then what happens after the release of this? Then how would you treat your film after it's done with the screenings?
We are going to. The ideal thing is it will be available online, but I prefer it if we could get a donation in order to view it. So it'd be a small fee to watch it. So I've got somebody who's advising me on how we'll do that. But the viewings are the nicest way to watch it, because you're seeing it on a big screen and with the great sound and so on. And also we're showing it at the Bedford in Balham, which sounds like a bog standard pub, but it's not. It's got a lovely theatre room at the back. It's been a famous comedy club for years, and they're all set up with a PA and a great projector and everything. And it's a great space. So we've got 2 students from Future Talent who are going to perform a song live.
Nice.
One of John Barry's songs. and we're going to have a little speech from the narrator, Charlie Francis, who's has a much more expert opinion about the music than I have. And you know, he talks about how clever he thinks that the compositions are, and how unusual and unexpected the chord changes and things like that. So it's wonderful fun when you see it on the big screen, and you know, it's always thrilling to hear the music, especially the Bond themes, and hearing it nice and loud, you know, like you would in the cinema. But and I've deliberately made the whole pace of it quite pacey, you know, even though it's an hour and it fits a hell of a lot in. I think there's about 70 John Barry tracks, obviously snippets of tracks, and so it rattles through it quite quickly. So it's quite exhilarating to watch, because you're forever going, you know, oh, I remember this bit and I remember that bit, and I love that bit, you know, and the underwater music, that was, you know, I really like that. And so it's great fun, and people in York really enjoyed watching it. So I'd encourage people, if they can, to come and see the viewing, because that's the best you'll ever see it, really.
Will there be ever any other screenings, or is it kind of dependent on how
No,
well
I
it
think
performs?
I'll stick to York and London,
Yeah.
and then we'll do it online. One of my films before, we created DVDs, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many people have got DVD players anymore. So I think
I
online
do.
is probably the way to
It's
go.
the only thing I have got that I know how to work.
Yeah, I think I make the DVDs, and I don't even have a DVD player myself. But it's a shame, because it's a nicer souvenir in a way to have a DVD in a case.
I
You know.
know, yeah. No, the wife has stopped me, has put a stop to buying physical media because, you know, well, we live in London, so you know that,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, space is at a premium, really.
yeah,
But there's
yes.
only so much stuff you can fit on shelves in rooms. But yeah, no, it's still the only way that I watch stuff. Well, listen,
Mm,
I can't wait to watch your film, and I'm actually very excited that it's a free parter, because it feels like from John Barry, from York with Love, is very much centered on the early career, and you know, and his time in York, and how that kind of that bolstered
mm,
his life going forward. But then, you know, there's so many other interesting elements with the other scores of his life. You know, there's obviously so much litigious stuff that he went through with the Bond themes, you know, suing Monty Norman and the press papers, and also like the illnesses that he had towards the end of his life. Like he drank like a health drink or something like that in a
yes.
restaurant that kind of knocked him for six, and then
Yeah.
that ripped out his esophagus or something like that. But you know,
God
then
knows what drink was.
I know,
But
but
don't touch it.
just a crazy story that he was on this health plan, and he
Mm,
drank a drink that was, it had like 60 odd different berries in it, and one of them was a toxic berry. And so when he went to sue the drink company, I think, and
oh,
they went bust. So he couldn't get anything out of it. But that's kind of shrouded in mystery as well, what happened there. But
yeah. Well,
um,
I mean, my own opinion of the controversy over the Bond theme was that he should have at least got a co-writer's credit. I mean, it's just crazy in my opinion. You know, you've got those few notes, and this is touched upon in the film quite specifically. But you know, it was almost like you've got 5%, and the 95% was the whamming great track. You know, that John Barry's put together in a week. I think
yeah.
it was. You know, it's just one of the most famous pieces of music from all time. You know, film soundtracks.
Yeah, it's kind of insane that Monty Norman, and I don't want to do any down on Monty Norman because he obviously
Mm,
sparked the whole thing with that theme, but that he really clung on to that. Like he's fought in courts that it was his and no
mm,
one else's. And you know, I just feel like anyone that has is worth their salt should say, look, I came up with an idea, and this guy amplified. He took it into the stratosphere, and I've got to
mm,
do something for this guy over here because I would be nowhere without that guy.
mm,
So it's just kind of weird that he really, really held on to that one thing
mm.
that made him famous. But
Yeah. Well, you know, John Barry went on to trump that several times over,
yeah,
didn't
but I mean, just like from a Monty Norman perspective, just going to imagine the amount of dinner parties and cocktail parties that he went to, and hadn't to every time someone brought it up, he would have to like dig his heels in over it. You know what I mean?
he? Yes, yes. I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Anyway, Sean, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you. Thanks so much for taking time out, especially last minute. I mean, this was just done in the last hour, so. But I can't wait to come see the film. It is playing at the Bedford. My sheets just appeared. The Club Room down in Balham in Clapham on the 25th of June, and I'll leave a link in the show notes to get some tickets. I do recommend people snap them up pretty quick. And and hopefully I'll see you at the event, mate. You'll come to the screening?
Oh, I will be there, yeah.
Perfect. Of course. But hopefully this will inspire you to do another one, and we'll get you back on for part 2 as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Oh, Rob, what do you think of that?
I thought he was great, actually.
Yeah,
and
enjoyed it?
I love the fact that it's all for charity. He's not making any money from this. It's all just for the love and passion of John Barry, of music, and being a Yorkshireman. I think it's great. He's clearly, because he's from York, isn't he? And he's doing this for the people of York, so they can be educated and not have to pay a huge amount of money to see this film. Only a small amount, isn't
15
it?
quid, I think.
To see stuff about really interesting, cool stuff about a fellow Yorkshireman who's done extremely well in life, or did. He's sailing longer with us. But I mean, I really got that passion from him, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
I think it'll be a good documentary. I'm interested. It's only an hour long, so in and out. Really.
Part 1.
And I love that. I love the fact that
It
he's going to
ends
break.
after Diamonds Are Forever.
So we got all of the juice really to come.
And I thought it was really interesting the way he broke it down and where he decided to end as well, because he's absolutely right that the music pre-71 is very different to the music post-71, his music. So the music that he wrote sort of in the 70s and 80s and 90s was a lot more sort of gushing and orchestral, and whereas the stuff he wrote for the early Bond films was a lot more experimental, wasn't it? And really,
the Majesties, it had the Moog synthesizer and things like that.
Absolutely.
He was trying it all.
He was, and he was succeeding, and all the Oriental
was.
stuff, and You Only Live Twice, and all that wonderful sort of underwatery stuff in Thunderball, and I mean, he was. This is and Goldfinger, the brass in Goldfinger. I mean, those scores all sound so different. You can instantly hear one note or two notes from any of those 60 scores, and immediately you'll know which film it's from. Whereas I think later on they tended to sort of merge a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because his scores tended to be quite similar. I mean, they're obviously all fantastic, but he got his style more, and oh, that's John Barry. Listen to that chord. Listen to that instrumentation. Whereas in the 60s, he was still finding his feet and experimenting and producing incredible stuff.
Yeah,
I think
you hear this phrase that some films the music is better than the film. Like they accuse, I don't know, films like Rocky of that. I don't agree with it, but some say that.
I wouldn't say that's the case for GoldenEye, but
no, but exactly. But there's some films that you watch and you go, crikey, the fucking score to this film. If only it was put to a better film, you know what I mean?
Casino Royale 67. That's true for.
That's up there. I was watching Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, and that's scored by John Barry. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay. Wow, I'm surprised because you'd love it.
Okay.
But it's a very sweet story, and it's this huge build-up. I think I've even spoke to you about this before.
You have.
Yeah. But it's that moment that everybody knows when he first meets Jane Seymour, and it kicks in after about an hour, and the music that builds you up to that, the emancipation of that scene is sending hairs up my ballsack as I speak now. Only on my ballsack, not my arms or my spine, just on my ballsack. And that's pure Barry, pure bloody cinema, Rob.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a bit like for me in Vertigo with Bernard Herrmann when he's finished. Have you seen Vertigo?
Sure have.
When he's finished.
No, wait, no, I haven't. Sorry.
Have you not?
No.
He basically recreates the woman he's lost halfway through the film.
Like Frankenstein.
She dies, and then he meets another woman who looks a bit like her, and he tries to turn her into the woman that he lost. And he succeeds, and there's this wonderful scene where she steps into the room, and she's got the hairdo, the hair colour, the clothes, all the stuff he's made her do, and the music is just incredible.
Oh, I do like Bernard Ham.
Yeah, you need to see Vertigo. I can't believe you've never seen Vertigo.
Oh, stop saying fucking things like that from a man that's never seen Cliffhanger, right? I'm not having that. I'm not bloody having it. Right, okay, sorry. You do pick a nerve when you say things like that. I can't believe you've never seen it.
Well, it's so old. It's like everyone's seen
What did I
Vertigo.
just name that you hadn't seen? Somewhere in Time. You haven't seen Somewhere in Time?
No.
Which is John Barry, and you've just spent the last 10 minutes telling me how much you love John Barry, and you've never seen Somewhere in Time. Do you realise how insane you sound? Right, okay, good. Let's crack on, shall we, Rob? We've got minute 114.
Yes.
And this one is sponsored by Propstore. Propstore.com. Yay! And there are some lovely posters, Bondian posters no less, up in the auction right now. As you can see, we put them in the newsletter, so hopefully you would have seen some of those. But head over to Propstore.com and just type in Bond in the search word and have a little skim around some of those posters. Most of them are autographed and rare. You'd love it. Right, so, crikey, Bond is still in dire straits here. Let's pick it up now. Minute 114. If we go.
Do it soon enough, and she might even be in one piece.
Yeah, he's not having that.
You really aren't going to tell me, right? So I think. I'll feed you what you see not to value. I'll get the money. Tell them I'll get the money.
Money isn't as valuable to our organization as knowing who to trust.
Ooh. Rob! Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And that, I texted you earlier in the day, didn't I? I said, this finishes on the perfect.
Well, yes, and of course
perfect.
mine finishes it when he's opening his eyes.
Right. Because you've got
Yes,
extra
I've got
footage on your
extra
phone.
bits.
Well, you need to tell me what that is. You
I
need
don't
to
know what they are now. We're going to have to
do it side by
gang them
side.
together and
Yeah.
watch it. Yeah,
That
we're
will
gonna
never
have to.
happen. Yeah. But
Because
that's what we
it must be something to do with that torture scene because
Yeah.
they were together.
They were lining up
and they've
before we did that. Yeah.
and they've added a few bits,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
a few little extra whips. I think
I want to see them.
you do.
Yeah.
You feel hard done by now, don't you?
Maybe there's a close up of the rope.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, no, yours lined up perfectly there. That's amazing.
Oh God, but I was so pleased because we're now. That is it. Torture
Oh,
scene
thank
over.
God.
There's nothing worse than
Thank
another
God.
10 seconds of hangover from the
It's
last
such
sequence.
a-
of the next
yeah.
one, you know. But now we can cut this loose, and we'll be on to the.
And it's like when you go to the chapters on the Blu-ray, like the chapter for that is when they're on the bloody train having dinner.
Right. Yeah.
And then you've got to go all the way all through that, and then all the way. I mean, it's such a long bit before the next chapter, which is this bit
Right.
when he's convalescing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
That's
God.
different on my
It's
Blu-ray
like,
as well.
How really?
Yeah. The chapters are.
It's like, so
broken up.
how long have I got to keep fast forwarding to get to the bit?
So
yeah. Anyway,
any extra takeaways apart from the chapters?
so on my deluxe version that I have with the extra commentary by the director and the producer, they talk about Ben the Stuntman. Now, Ben the Stuntman was asked to strip naked and sit in the chair so he could be the one pushed over.
Wow.
Because they were worried about Daniel Craig banging his head
Yeah.
when they pushed the chair over. And it's really funny because the director says, oh, that poor old Ben the Stuntman, this is a guy who would jump off a 500 foot building, would think nothing of it. But he was petrified of having to strip down to nothing and then be
get
tied
kicked
to a
over.
chair in front of people. He couldn't bear it and he had to do it, and they all thought it was hilarious.
Wow. So that's him getting That's him getting kicked over.
And then you actually do see Ben the Stuntman later on in the next scene when they take what's his name away?
Mads.
Not Mads. Mathis.
Mathis.
Oh
yeah.
When they taser him.
Yeah, taser him.
And drag him away.
Oh,
Ben the Stuntman is one of those guys who drags him away.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Ah, that's interesting. So that's
yeah,
him all
there's
muscly and getting
and
kicked over.
they also said, and I think this is on your commentary as well that you've got with the crew, because I think the DOP's talking, isn't he?
Phil Mayhew.
But also Martin Campbell and Michael G. Wilson talk about that shot where Mads's head lands, and said that was really hard to shoot, and it took loads of takes because they had to get the head landing in exactly the right place for where it appears on the camera.
Yeah, you got like a 2-second focus ball where they have to focus on Mr. White,
Yes.
and then pull
Yes.
it into close focus for Mads
on
to
Mads,
land.
yes. And
Yeah.
they said that was really hard to do,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of goes, and poor old Mads had to keep falling over.
Interesting.
I know. And they also said that whole scene, they did lots of takes anyway, just to get the best performances.
Right.
So yeah, and yet they still said this thing about overdubbing it in Pinewood, which you dispute, don't you? Maybe that was just the sound effects.
I don't dispute any dubbing going. I think I dispute that, like, Craig, the dialogue, because it's all done.
Yeah,
they kept on saying they were doing it in one take.
when they say they've overdubbed it, I think they must mean the sound effects. I don't think they mean the. Well, maybe they do mean the voices.
Or maybe in some of the breakaways, maybe like Mr. White. I forget his real name.
Jesper Christensen.
Thank you. Maybe his lines or something, because he's right at the end.
Yeah, because they. I mean, Martin Campbell made out that whole scene was dubbed.
Well, maybe it was.
In
like,
post.
he says it was.
It's,
But it just.
which is amazing if that's the case. And yet they said they had to keep going to get the best performances out of them. So then that contradicts in a way. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, it's a great scene. This, isn't it?
So it does. It's very, very similar to the book, as we've discussed before.
It is.
There is a slight nuance where obviously we don't know who Mr. White is yet, or who he works for. We later he works for Quantum. That kind of shifts into Spectre, like later down the road.
Yeah.
And then in the book it's Smersh, right? And so after he shoots Le Chiffre, he then goes up to Bond. He goes, "Oh, you're bloody lucky." No, sorry, in a Russian accent. "You're lucky, Mr. Bond. If I had more time, I would fuck you." No, he wouldn't. So he goes. He does a little thing on his hand, doesn't he? Like a signature for Smersh. He writes, like, he scores an S into his hand.
Yeah.
So he goes, all I can do, Mr. Bond, is leave a little S on your hand. And that's it. But he basically said, look, my superiors want you alive, and that's why I'm not going to kill you. I've got express orders. And he says to Le Chiffre, "Oh, if I had more time, I would torture you, because you've caused us so much ball ache."
Right.
He goes, "Mate, you wouldn't believe the ball ache you've caused me and my Smersh team. And if I had more time."
It's great that all that is straight out of the book.
Yeah.
But they do say as well, and I know we touched on this a bit last week, that Michael G. Wilson said that the studio was worried about the fact that Bond doesn't kill the villain. I mean, obviously he kills at the end, but he doesn't kill Le Chiffre. Le Chiffre is killed by Mr. White, and they were concerned about that. But then they're like, well, that's the book. And then like, oh, okay then. Okay. So, yeah.
Right, Rob, thank you for that. Thank you. I think we should probably put a pin in that. Oh, I'm so glad that we're out of the torture scene.
It's good. I love the next scene, actually. The next stuff is wonderful.
Okay, but let's get on. We've got some... Shall we do listener mail now or in the Patreon?
Now.
We
do listener mail in the main one.
Now.
Do you have any messages for me?
I have a small surprise from your friends back at the barracks.
Excellent. We have been granted an audience.
Rob, listener mail. Who is this from? This is from Alex P. Lamas. Always say yes to adventure. Loved the latest podcast, and just to let you know that I'm a 58-year-old non-gamer classic Connery Bond fan, and I absolutely bloody love the trailer for First Light. I'm paraphrasing. I thought it was extremely James Bond. I loved his cocky attitude. I loved the images, the clothes, gadgets. Loved all the little nods to past Bond films and books. Loved the Aston Martin DBS, and like you, Peter, I absolutely bloody loved the On Her Majesty's Secret Service music. Sorry, he's abbreviated it into OHMSS.
Yeah.
When that bit came on, I got goosebumps. Ooh. Some of us older Bond fans keep young at heart. Well, thank you, Alex. I think we should get a jingle for Alex, because he always chimes in, doesn't he?
Does he?
Yeah, well, he's the one that always corrects us.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
he is.
Well, he doesn't like to call them corrections, just more like, well, they are. They're just corrections. But let's think about a jingle for Alex next time. All right, we have. Oh, hey Rob, in answer to one of your, who's this from? Oh, Mark Hernandez.
Oh, Mark.
Patron subscriber.
Yeah.
Hey Rob, in answer to one of your questions on this week's pod, I had a look back, and I think your first episode with Pete was on the 11th of July, 2024, and then as a regular guest from 15th of August.
Well, that's coming up soon, so we ought to mark that as an anniversary.
I'm just crossing that out now. That's something not to ever bring up again. Ed Maggiani. He's the one that did all the props. I think David Zaritsky spoke about him the other day. Regarding the ball crusher rope torture prop, I only made the one for David that we used at the end of one of the videos. He did at my home as a joke, as I use it on him at the end. It's actually not screen accurate, as the real one seems to be the individual strands of the thick rope just bonded together into a mass at the end. Thank you, Ed. I'll leave a photo. He sent me a photo of the screenshot of the rope, and I'll put that in the show notes. I'll tell you what, Rob, I've got time for this. I think this is important. So, you know how I never really self-promote, right? I mean, this podcast, I promote on our channels, like the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, but it's all very on our channels, right?
Yeah.
Now...
I know what you're going to...
And
I know what this is going to be about.
I'm not against anyone else sharing their content on other community platforms. I'm not against that at all. But it's just not for me. But, however, with the Shaken Not Stirred Facebook page, I see a lot of people sharing their YouTube videos.
Lots of people share stuff on that.
Yeah, which is great, because, you know, that's how sometimes I get to know about it.
To put stuff
exactly.
Up. Yeah.
And I'm a member of Shaken Not Stirred. I'm a member. I paid my 30-odd quid.
We both are.
Yeah, and I also paid for Anastasia. So, like, I feel like I'm in the club. Yeah? Been to a couple of events.
Yes.
I'm in the club. So I pushed the boat out, Rob. Last week, I said to... I made a post. This is an interview with Simon Firth that can be found on the podcast. Simon Firth has released the latest book, Jamaica. James. Anyway, I plugged it.
Yeah.
And this from Jeremy Flowers was a reply. More advertising? Huh? But what podcast is this? Do you mention Shaken Not Stirred? Huh? Question mark. He's not actually hung. I'm putting
it's a question. Yes.
Best Bond group on the net. So anyway, he's saying.
So he thinks you're just an advertiser.
Yeah, he just think I'm just advertising. I don't know what he thinks I'm advertising. The book, I suppose, I'm just helping a friend out who's got a book out about Bond. I'm advertising the fact that he's found new information also that people would find useful in this book related to Fleming and Bond. Yeah,
but it's like you're posting something that is going to create conversation, which is what everyone does on there. So
I'm not posting product. I'm not posting cardboard cutouts of me signed saying pick these up for 10 quid.
No, you're not. And you're
it's fucking podcast.
And you're not like trying to sell anything.
Yes, I'm selling the podcast. If anything, I'm selling the content, which everybody else does.
And which is free.
Anyway, look, Jeremy Flowers, fine. Look, and by the way, do you mention Shaken Not Stirred? Yes, we did the whole 10 minutes at the start of the podcast about you going to the football match.
Yes.
We did a whole episode dedicated to Amberley, which Shaken Not Stirred hosted. So do we mention Shaken Not Stirred? Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the podcast, Jeremy, rising contributor, I'd love to fucking take that star off him. How do you get someone to... Anyway.
Oh, dear.
So, look... Anyway, but it was my fault. No, it's my fault, because I pushed the boat out. It's the only...
It's not your fault.
No, it's my fault. I should never just push the boat out.
You
I should just stick into my lane. Stick to my lane. Anyway,
I think.
Look, that's what I get.
Don't let it stop you from posting stuff on Shake Not Stirred in the future, because it's a lovely group and they welcome your posts.
Well, I didn't see the group come to my rescue on that bullshit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
okay.
Well, look, I don't expect to either, but if it's a lovely group, they should be flagging up what an arsehole this guy was. Anywho, who's next? Who else do I have to call out? This one from David Zaritsky.
Oh, yeah. What's he got to say for himself?
David, talk to me.
Now talk.
All right, let me get it queued up. Here we go.
Hey, Pete, it's David Zaritsky from the... the experience. Hope you're doing well. Hey, listen, I send these things in with Rob, about Rob. You know what? Because of my adoration for him. And I feel like, well, if I'm being an adult, I feel like my last one that I sent in went too far. I could hear some of the hurt and pain. I mean, he said something like, charming that is. I could tell it didn't land well. And not all of them are, right? They're not all going to land well. But it was, it was probably inappropriate on my part. I mean, that is how I felt, apologetic, until I heard Rob talk about ageism, which was kind of shocking to me. He said, for example, that people in their 50s can't move that well. He talked about the football game with people in the 50s, God bless them, and they shouldn't be out there and shouldn't be moving. And as he fast approaches 50, sort of giving up on the physicality of things. I'm here to tell Rob that I'm sorry to say I'm in better shape than most of my friends in their 30s and 40s. And I feel good about that. I can move extremely well. Whether it's martial arts or weaponry or just running or jumping or landing, nothing breaks. I don't have hip fractures. I don't have a ceramic hip at 57 years of age. When I take off my shirt, most women are not repulsed. So yeah, a part of it is,
Most
Rob,
women?
don't give in to the ageism thing.
Most women.
So there's more than Danielle here then.
How often is he taking his shirt off in front of women? Oh, carry on. A little insight. Oh, sorry.
But the whole cliche of age is just a number. It's a choice in some cases. You can choose to be a really old 49-year-old that is very happy to take out his tennis ball walker out to his love bug and polish it.
49, I'm
You
48.
can be, an enthusiastic and vivacious and active individual and take control of that. It's a choice. So I don't blame Rob for his ageism. I think he's a product of his environment and surrounding. I wish he wouldn't feel that way. I wish he wouldn't throw out ageism remarks. At any age you can be vital. But again, I love me some Rob. I say this with love and adoration because I think Rob still has the opportunity, even at the ripe age of 49, to
48.
become the best version of himself. And life is all about learning. Rob, when you fall forward. Don't fall backwards, unless you're falling into a pit. And then I'm kind of happy about that. All right, guys, take care.
Thank you, David.
48.
48. I'll get it, Rob. You're 48.
Yeah.
Wow, it's nice of him. He's met you halfway. It's a peace offering.
Yeah,
he's
very
apologising.
kind.
You liked that, didn't you? I saw your eyes lit up when he apologised.
Yes.
Oh,
Very kind.
yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you, Dave.
So is that it for listener mail for this week?
Well, I should say though. I mean, yeah, he's right. In the 50s, you can be in good nick.
Oh, yes, of course
Right?
you can.
Look, I've said this before on the show, but I've hugged David.
One thing I
Zaricki.
would say though, in
won't say it in a
response
minute.
to that,
Okay,
is
go.
if you're playing football in your 50s, you're more likely to do yourself an injury than if you're playing football in your 20s. Because things do break. Things do start falling off.
It is true, yeah. Most people pick up injuries that I know. Like, the amount of people that I've had here fixing the house, construction workers, like teams of gardeners, hobbling around. I'm like, what happened to you? You roll your ankle? Goes, oh yeah, football.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the
I know.
fuck are you playing football for? You're 55.
Well,
Sorry.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel like we've just gone back a couple.
Yeah. There's a reason professional footballers retire when they do.
Yeah.
And become pundits.
Well, I think.
I'm not saying they give up.
We agree with the overall statement of what David is saying.
You can be fit and healthy,
but yeah, football is
but
not.
You don't want to put yourself out there for a potential injury because your body.
Well,
can't
you got to go to work.
Yeah,
you got responsibilities.
Yes, of course you do. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, I was saying I have hugged David Zaricki before, and I said to him at the time, I said, "Man, this is like hugging a bit of granite." I mean, he's.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's rock hard.
Is he?
Yeah, it's like hugging that.
You got right in there then.
I did, yeah, we got close. Yeah, there was a real moment in that hotel room. Okay, that is it. Ooh,
Hang on, wasn't there a death in the family? Are we doing that on Patreon?
Oh, let's do that in the patron show. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, let's do that in the patron show. We've gone on for so long, Rob, so long.
And that was even without the soliloquies that we did initially.
I tell you what, let's do our soliloquies in the patron show, shall we?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that is it. Let's just finish up, round off here. We do have someone to thank. We've got David Ormond. David, you bought a map, the London Bond map, still for sale. Thank you. You get a thank you from M.
Oh, thank you, 007.
And we should say, look, if you like the podcast, why not give it a review? I don't know if anyone haven't checked. But we got YouTube. We're doing different things all the time, aren't we, Rob? We've got book reviews that we put out on YouTube.
We have, yes.
We've got match reports and all sorts that we put out on the Patreon. You can get an early episode on the Patreon. You get a bonus episode that we're about to record now. And there's more than one reason to sign up. So thank you to everyone that's listened that got this far. And I guess until next time.
Ciao.